Hey guys, welcome back to Nasus Trend. So today on the channel we'll be making a halter neck crop top. All right. It's going to be a quick and a very easy one to do. So I have my material, my pattern paper because I'll be cutting this out on the pattern first. I have my zip for this. I'll be adding my zip to this. Okay, so you're going to see how I'm going to do this. I have my thread and I have the other stuffs I'll be needing for this project to carry out this project. Okay, so the first we want to do is to draft this out on the pattern. Like I said, we'll draft it out on the pattern first before replicating it on our material. So I've gone ahead to mark out my starting point on my pattern paper. All right, so I'm not cutting my pattern paper on fold. Okay, I'm just using a single one to cut it out. So I'm marking out my bust point, which is 10 inches, my under bust point, which is 13 inches. And for my full length, like I said, is a crop top. Okay, my half length is 16, but I'll be using 17 inches. Okay, so that I can hem it at the end. So by the time I finish, everything will come down to 16 inches. I hope you got that. So if your half length is 15 inches, go ahead and add 1 inch to that. So you'll be using the extra for your hemming allowance. Okay, so I'm just extending the lines out now so we can start imputing other measurements. All right. But if you want yours to be longer, you don't want yours to be um, as short as mine, you don't want yours to be a crop top, you want yours to be longer, you can still follow the same pattern. The only difference would be the length. So just use your desired length. Okay. So I'll go over to mark out my neckline now. So I'm using a neck width of 4 inches against a neck depth of 4 inches. Okay. This is just a template before I begin tracing out my halter neck. Okay. For this, it doesn't have really have like a neckline. It's actually a square neckline, but this will be a template for us to work on it. So I'm just using my pattern rule to make a simple curve, a simple C curve at this end so that I can connect this together. All right. So go ahead and do that for yours too. Okay. So I've gone ahead to connect that. The next thing I want to do is to mark out my shoulder divided by 2. So my shoulder is 15 divided by 2. I have 7.5 inches. I went ahead to mark that. So at the point where marked 7.5, I'm coming down by 1 inch for my shoulder slant. All right. So I've marked that. I'm just going to make a slanted line from that end into the neck width I marked. Okay. I'm just basically doing a basic pattern for now, a basic bodice. Just trying to draft out a basic bodice, okay, a dartless basic bodice because this will have no dart whatsoever. So I went ahead to mark my armhole depth, which is 7 inches, and I'm just rolling a line across. Okay, I've always mentioned on the channel on how to get your armhole depth. Okay, you measure your round bust, divide that by 6, and then add 1.5 to whatever you get. So I'm just going to label these lines now. Okay, so this is my arm seg slash my chest line, okay, because it also serves as my chest line, my bust point, my other bust point, and the full length. Okay, so I'm using my half length as the full length because remember, like I said, it's a crop top. So I'll just extend the line to meet the arm line, the chest line I rode horizontally. Okay, so we've gone ahead to get that. The next we want to get the armhole curve. So I'm going to take the measurement from that end and get the midpoint. I've gone ahead to mark that. For me, it is 3.5 inches. And then I'll be going in by half of an inch, okay? So I can get the curve. And I'll use my master pattern rule to just trace this out, just make a curve around that area, okay? It's advised to use this, but if you don't have a rule while doing this, just carefully trace this out, okay? So I've gone ahead to do that now. The next thing we're going to do is to put in our body measurements. Okay. So it will be after putting our body measurements that we can start working on our halter neck. All right. So I'm going to divide my round bust by 4 and then I'll mark it down there. So go ahead and do that for yours. I marked 8.5 and I'm repeating the same my round bust measurement on the chest line, that's the armhole area, and then I'll just divide my round waist by 4, which is 7.5. Okay, so after doing that, remember, um, you need to have allowance for stitching down. So I'm just adding 1 inch for stitching down for mine, because I want this to have some sort of fitting on my body by the time I'm through with this. But if you want yours to have you want yours to be free, go ahead and add extra allowance to that. Okay, so if you're working with a fabric that is stretchy, you really necessarily do not need adding a zipper to yours. Okay, so you can just add half of an inch for your stitching allowance. All right, so now let's work on our halter neck. Okay, from the neck depth, which is 4 inches, I came up by 2. So I went ahead to mark that down. So I marked 2 inches at that point. All right. So the next thing I want to do is to connect that 2 inches to the armhole line. All right. So I'm just using my rule, the straight part of my rule, and then I'm just making the straight line from the 2 inches I marked to the other end. Okay. So I've gone ahead to mark that down. So the next thing you want to get is how much gathers you want around your neck area. Now, if you want this to be higher, like you want it to be very close to the neck, you can go ahead and go up by whatever inches you want. All right, but I used 2 inches because I didn't want it to be too high on my neckline. Not now for the gathers area, what I was saying, sorry about that. If you want yours to be more gathered, just make you just have to choose how much gathers you want around the neckline. For me, I didn't want much, so I used 5.5 inch. So you can use from 5 inch to whatever gathers you want around your neck area. All right. So I'm just connecting that point, that the 5.5 inches, into the armhole. Okay. So I just created a new armhole from that area. All right. So we are almost getting to the end of this. Like I said, it is a dartless top, so we'll not be doing that. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is to add my allowances for this. Okay, for this I'm going to be using my red marker to do this. So because we'll be folding the top of the neckline, all right, I went ahead to add 1.5 inch at the top. You can use 2 inches. Okay, you just need to use what works for you very well. Okay, so I used 1.5 inches at that point to add the allowance at that end, and I'll also add allowance around the armhole area, even though I will just be piping this down. Okay, so you need your allowance there, whether you're using a bias tape to pipe this down or whatever you decide to use. So I went ahead to mark down 0.5 inch. Okay, so I just marked out half of an inch around my armhole area. Okay, just the allowance there. Now remember, I've already added allowances to the side and to the length of this, so I will not be adding allowances to this. Like I said, if you want yours to be longer, go ahead and use whatever length you desire to use. Okay, so I just went ahead to do this. Okay, I'm just tracing this out with a red marker so that we know where we're cutting out from. Okay, I made use of a blue marker earlier for our initial marks. Okay, but I'm using a red marker now to just strengthen the faint lines of the blue so that the cutting will not be confusing. I hope you got that right. All right, so you can see I'm canceling some of this. Okay, it means they are no longer what we are going to use. Okay, so we got from our red marker, okay, down to the armhole and then to the full length of this. So I'll just go ahead and cut this out. All right. Okay, like I said earlier in the video, it's actually quite a simple top to make. It's quite easy, it's quite fun. It's just something simple, not much stress. Okay, you wear it and it looks very gorgeous on you. Okay, you can decide to use a very beautiful print fabric to do this. Okay, so I've gone ahead to cut it out and I'm placing it on my fabric. Now I'm folding my fabric into two. Remember, I said earlier my pattern paper wasn't folded into two, but I'm folding my fabric into two. All right, you can decide to cut the front and back together, but I'll be cutting this one by one. Okay, so I'll cut out the front first and then I'll cut out the back, even though the both of them are similar. Okay, there's no changes whatsoever between the back and the front. Okay, so I'm just going ahead to pin my pattern paper down on my clothes. Right, I'm just going to pin this down so it doesn't move while I'm cutting this out. So I'm just going to cut this out after pinning down, right? And if you're a returning subscriber, thank you for coming back to check on the channels. I hope you enjoy the videos, okay, I upload. And if you're seeing this channel for the first time, please and please do subscribe, okay? And ensure you turn on your notification bell to be notified whenever I post a new video, okay? I upload videos weekly, okay? So the channel is always updated weekly, and this is NASA's thread, okay? So I've gone ahead to cut out the front piece. This is what you have after you do that, okay? You can see this looks very nice, okay? I'm using the fabric that is actually very colorful to say. So the front and back looks kind of similar, okay? So if you want to do this, use a very nice fabric. It's going to come out very beautiful. I promise you, it will look quite nice. Okay. So I went ahead to fold in another piece. This is to cut at my back. So I'm placing the front on it. Remember I said I'm cutting out the front first before I replicate it and cut the back. Okay. But you can decide to cut out your front and back together. Okay. But I'm just cutting this one by one because this is what I wanted to do. All right. So I'm just tracing out the same thing I have for the front. I'm just tracing out the same patterns in front for the back. Okay. There's no difference between the back and the front. So everything is just aligning together and they're both the same. Okay. So this is one piece. Okay. And this is the other piece. Like I said, there's no difference between them. Okay. They are both the same, no center front. They both have, sorry, no center back, okay, because I'm not adding any zipper to the back, but other side. All right. So this is what we have, okay. What the next thing we're going to do is to stitch this down. Remember, I added 1 inch by the side, so I'll use 1 inch. I'll just pick a side and stitch it down to the end. While for the other end, because I'll be adding a zipper to the side of this, I'm not going to stitch it down throughout, okay. So from the armhole area, I'll be coming down by 1 inch, okay. I'm just going to mark down that area there, 1 inch. So I'm just going to stitch from the armhole area to that 1 inch and leave the other end open, okay, for my zipper. All right, so this is what it looks like after I did that. I've gone ahead to stitch the side down. Sorry, I didn't have any light while doing this, so you can see this is what it looks like, okay. This is the part that I didn't stitch throughout. So we have our opening there, which will serve as our zipper space. Okay. So the next thing I want to work on is the armhole area. Just going to pipe this up. Like I said initially, you can decide to use a bias tape to pipe this. Remember, we added 1/2 inch for this. If you don't want to use your bias or pieces from your material, you can just fold in the edge. That means you have to add 1 inch instead of 1/2 inch at that end. I hope you understand. So I went ahead to cut out 1 inch of bias. Okay, I'm using my material for my bias because I want this to have same look everywhere. Okay, because I want this to just look neat. So I went ahead to cut out this. Okay, the length is just the round measurement of my armhole. That's the cloth armhole. So that's what I took. You can see I have two pieces of this. All right, so this is what I have for both of them. So I'll go over to the machine. I'm going to pipe this up like we usually use our bias. Okay, there are actually different formats to pipe this up. You can decide to pipe from back to front, okay, but I'll be doing this from the front area to the back, okay. So you can decide to pipe from the front area to the back, or decide to pipe from the back to the front, but I'll be doing from the front to the back, okay. So I've gone ahead to do that. This is what it looks like, okay. Like I said, I wanted to use this so that it looks the same. There's no difference between both of them, okay. So I went ahead to also, after doing piping that, I also went ahead to hem the edge of this with the allowance I added. You can see this is what it looks like. It looks neat, okay. So we want to work on our neckline, okay. We want to make a passage, so to say, for our loops. Remember, we added 1.5 inch at the top for this purpose. This is an allowance for where our rope is going to pass, okay, to give us that halter neck effect. So what I'll do first is to fold this by 1/2 inch. and then fold again by 1 inch. Now, if you added 2 inches for yours, you have to also ensure you exhaust the allowance you add to this. Okay, it's quite important so you don't have that area sagging. Okay, so ensure you exhaust the allowance for this. Okay, you can see I'm just going to fold this a little, that's by half of an inch, and then fold again by 1 inch, so that I'll have space in between for where my rope or my loop is going to pass through. Okay, so I'm going to stitch this down. Okay, so I've gone ahead to do that. This is what it looks like. Okay, it looks quite nice. Our cloth is coming in together gradually. All right, so the next thing we're working on is our zipper. Now I'm using a long invisible zip. You can use whatever zip you have. Okay, so to do this, I'm just going to place the closed end of my zip, okay, at the point where I did the 1 inch stitch. That's from the armhole area. I'm going to place it at that end there. All right, then I'm going to use the allowances I have for that to stitch it down on both sides, and then cut out what is left of it when I finish. So this is what it looks like. Okay, it looks good. Like I said, you can use whatever zipper you have. If you have a long one, you can use. If you have a short one, you can use, so long as you get the perfect result. Okay, so the next we want to work on is our loops. That's like the last thing for this tutorial. We're working on our loops for this. So what I did was to measure out 2 inches, okay, for the width of my loop. And then for the length of the loop, you can decide to use whatever desired length, depending on how much you want it to be, okay? But I'm cutting mine with a length of 45 inches, okay? So yours can be longer, okay, because I think 45 inches is a short one. Okay, if you, when you see the video at the end, you tell that it was short because didn't want it to be too much around my neck area. But if you want yours to be longer, just go ahead and add. Okay, say you can use about 55 to 60 thereabout if you want it to be longer. So I just went ahead to cut the straight out. Okay, remember I used 2 inches for my width, okay, and 45 for the length. So this is what I have at the end of the day. All right, so the next thing I want to do is to work on this. All right, to work on this, I just needed to have I want to make a tiny loop for this purpose. All right, so I will go over to the machine. I'll fold it, one edge in, the other edge in, okay, and then fold it again on itself. All right, so that's what I will have by the time I do that. Okay, so I'll go over to the machine and stitch it. Okay, I'll just show you again. Fold this end, and then fold the both of them again to meet at one end. All right, then I will stitch down the area that is open. So I've done that. So this is my loop. Okay, like I said, mine wasn't so long, okay, because I didn't want it to be that long. Okay, so if you want yours to be long, just do that. So I want to pass this through the space I have at the neckline. Okay, that's the loopholes at the neckline. So I used my safety pin to pin this down. I'm just going to pass this through. I'm just going to pick one edge of this. All right, so I started this from the edge where the zipper, it's not like the edge without the zipper, so that at the end of the day the ropes will come out at this other end where there's no zipper. Okay, so this is what it looks like after I did that. I'm just trying to adjust this properly so you see what it looks like. Okay, so this is what we are going to have at the end of the day. This is actually a very cute, quick, and easy project. Okay, it's an easy, you can make this as much as you want to make in a day. Okay, so this is what I have as my final result after doing that. Okay, this is what we have. All right, you can see this is me wearing my cute little Halter neck crop top. Okay, like I said, you can decide to make this longer. Okay, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. Okay, and let me know what you think about this in the comment section. All right, let me know if you'll be trying this out, and don't forget to turn on your notification bell to be notified on whenever I post a new video. And don't forget, this is NASA's thread we're going to see in the next video. Thank you for watching. Bye.